Okay, this is wild. China's chip export value just exploded by 72.6%. Let that number sink in. And they did this without having the most advanced EUV lithography machines. So, how on earth is this happening? Here's the data. According to Chinese customs, in just the first 2 months of this year, 2026, China's integrated circuit exports smashed through 300 billion yuan. That's about 150 billion per month. Compared to the same period last year, that's a 72.6% jump. Now, get this. China's overall export growth was only 21.8%. So, chip exports are growing more than 3 times faster than everything else. And we're just at the start of 2026. Some overseas institutions are now predicting that China's chip industry scale will break $540 billion for the first time, with overseas export scale hitting 2 trillion yuan. Let me put that in perspective. First, the global chip industry was about $800 billion in 2025, expected to near 1 trillion in 2026. China is on track to take half of the global production capacity. Half. Second, Chinese chip exports already account for 25% of global chip sales, and will soon break 30%. So it's a double win, massive domestic expansion and booming overseas sales. But why? Why are more and more countries scrambling to buy Chinese chips, and who's buying all of them? The number one hub is Hong Kong. It takes a whopping 42.3% of the total. But Hong Kong doesn't have a big electronics manufacturing base, so what's it doing? One thing, re-exporting. It's a giant transit point to the US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, and the Middle East. Now, you might ask, wait, don't the US, Europe, Japan, and South Korea have more advanced chip industries? Yes, they do. Here's the thing. It's about structural complementarity. Take Nexperia. Its HQ is in the Netherlands, R&D is in Europe and the US, but its biggest fab is in Dongguan, China. So when German car makers like BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, or France's Stellantis need Nexperia chips, they ship from Dongguan to Hong Kong, then to Europe. What about Japan and South Korea? Let's use Samsung as an example. Making a Samsung phone doesn't just need a Qualcomm chip from the US. It needs tons of logic chips, controller chips, power chips, signal analog chips, you name it. South Korea can buy ASML machines and make sub-5 nanometers chips. They lead in high-end memory, but all those high-end chips need a sea of supporting peripheral chips, and that's where massive imports from China come in. Especially for cars, TVs, anything using mature node chips relies heavily on Chinese supply. An EV needs 1,000 to 2,000 chips. NVIDIA might supply the infotainment and self-driving chips, but almost all the rest are power semiconductors. Even Tesla needs to import huge amounts of Chinese power management chips, sensors, and controllers. Part of Tesla's FSD chip is even packaged in China before being shipped to the US. So, while sub-5 nanometers chips seem high-end, demand is relatively tiny. Chinese chips might not be the absolute top tier yet, but they are complete in category, massive in volume, and reliable. Also, countries like Vietnam, which host many Chinese factories, are forced to import Chinese chips in bulk. They have no local chip tech. Plus, China's trade expansion in Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East is pushing chip exports even higher. And it's not just about volume. Our chips are getting more expensive. Why? First, AI is exploding demand for storage and compute chips, creating shortages. TSMC is focusing on the high-end market, leaving a gap in mature node capacity. Guess where those extra orders go? To mainland Chinese fabs. And they've used this chance to raise prices. Second, there are more self-developed chips. 10 years ago, China's chip industry was mostly downstream packaging and testing, earning meager assembly fees. Not anymore. From upstream R&D and design to downstream packaging and testing, China has built a complete industry cluster. We develop, produce, and sell ourselves, breaking dependency from the source. This full chain breakthrough has increased our chip's technological premium. Think about this. A decade ago, chip imports were China's #1 import, bigger than oil. The domestic self-sufficiency rate was under 10%. Now, for mature nodes above 28 nanometers, the domestic rate is over 70%. For advanced nodes below 14 nanometers, we're making continuous breakthroughs, just waiting for our domestic lithography machines to catch up. So, looking at all this, China's chips reaching the top globally? It's only a matter of time.